Welcome back. Now, as we mark Heritage Day, an article published in the Daily Maverick caught my attention because it shines a light on the millions of migrants and victims of trafficking around the world who yearn for home, their roots. Did you know that there are more than 40 million human trafficking victims globally? South Africa has worryingly even featured on a US report as being a watch list country for human trafficking. So what can you and I do to be part of a solution? One of the article's authors is international human rights practitioner Susan Marx, is joining us now here on South Africa Tonight. Susan, good evening. Thank you very much for making time on Heritage Day to talk to us about this. When I read this article, I thought, wow, very interesting. Heritage Day is supposed to be, as usual, about our heritage, our roots, our identity, celebrating. Why did you and your co-authors decide to highlight the plight of migrants, millions of migrants, on such a day?
Great. Thank you, Dan, and thanks for the opportunity to join you tonight. I think you basically summarized the importance of Heritage Day, and I think by definition, the importance of heritage to all of us. We get to celebrate in South Africa this rich, diverse, the cultures of the country. We tend to spend it together with our families doing things that remind us of home, remind us of our childhood. And for the past few weeks, having lived and worked in Afghanistan for 3 years, I have been spending my time trying to help Afghan families evacuate pretty much to any country that would take them. I have been involved in this anti-human trafficking project in South Africa for the past 18 months. And so I think in a way, just perhaps using the privilege that we have to celebrate our heritage with our families, to remember and recognize and honor those that are far away from their families, often in forced environments, in situations that you and I probably could not even imagine.
Okay, so in South Africa we have migrants and people who've left the countries of their birth for various reasons, risking so much from across the borders. I mean, Zimbabwe, Mozambique as examples, but also some of them have come from as far as Somalia. The issue of human trafficking on a day like this to be highlighted is very important, as you say, in terms of people having been uprooted from their homes forcibly for various reasons. How bad is the human trafficking challenge in the world? How bad is it?
Well, it may come as a surprise to many people, but currently around the world, there are more people in some form of bondage or slavery today than in any other time in history, including during the transatlantic slave trade. It's estimated by the UN that, as you mentioned today, there are over 40 million human trafficking victims around the world. This means that 1 out of 200 people today can be considered a slave or to be forcibly separated from their families.
Yeah, I mean, the crime of trafficking, therefore, leads to modern slavery, as you say. And in my intro there, I understand that we've been put on the watch list by America as South Africa. Is it because South Africa is a gateway of sorts in this global human trafficking or slavery trade?
That's a really great question. South Africa is complicated because it is both a source, a destination, and a transit country. So in other words, South Africans themselves are being trafficked, largely, you might be surprised, domestically, but we are also, of course, a destination country. And so many of our traffic victims do come from neighboring countries, but as you pointed out, Dan, also from far-flung places. We're also a transit country, meaning people being trafficked from one location in the world come through our borders and they are trafficked to other places in the world. I wouldn't say that that is the only reason why South Africa was placed on the watch list. So just for our viewers, there are 3 tiers. Tier 1 are countries that are dealing very, very well with their human trafficking problem, because this is a global problem that occurs in every country of the world, including places like Switzerland, Norway, the United States. Then you have tier 2, which has about the majority of the countries on it. And then there is tier 3. Tier 3 are countries that essentially is considered not to be dealing with the problem well at all. The watch list is before you make it to tier 3. So South Africa has spent now 3 years out of the past 4 years on the watch list, which basically indicates that we are not putting enough resources towards the crime, we're not prosecuting enough cases, and essentially services and government efforts are not coordinated well enough to warrant us being on tier 2.
You know, it's a tragedy, from what you said, that 1 in 200 people today in the world is considered a slave due to human trafficking, and we are part of that. And that's more than in any other time in history. Mm-hmm. And you would have thought slavery was abolished. Meanwhile, it's alive and well, and some people might say it's even thriving. So what can ordinary people like me do in order to take action and stop modern slavery?
That's a great question once again, Dan. And I think, the first thing, of course, is to educate ourselves, to read up on this issue. And I think recognizing that human trafficking is not something that happens over there. Human trafficking is not something that only has to do with underaged, girls from another country being held as sex slaves. Human trafficking is something that happens in South Africa. It happens in our industries. It happens in people's homes. Remember, there is a misconception that to be considered human trafficked, you have to move the victim. That is not the case. The UN's definition says that to be considered human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons for the purpose of exploitation. So I think for any citizen, we educate ourselves on this crime. Think about the products that you buy and consume. Where do they come from? Who makes them? There are lists out there on the internet that you can research to make sure that goods that you are consuming on a daily basis is not made by child labor or forced labor. You can donate money to worthy organizations and contact your local government officials and tell them that this stuff matters. Especially in COVID-19, during the pandemic, we have so many priorities to deal with that many other things, such as human trafficking, has now simply not become a priority. And very importantly, if you suspect a case of human trafficking, please contact the South African National Human Trafficking Hotline. It's operated by an organization called A21. They do amazing work. The number is 0800 222 777. It's free of charge, or if you're unsure, contact your nearest police station.
Can you repeat that number, please, Susan?
I'd be happy to. The number for the South African National Human Trafficking Hotline is 0800 222 777. It's free of charge. Remember, if you suspect that something is wrong, there might be something wrong.
Yeah, finally, before I let you go, it is Heritage Day. And of course, for these many slaves, as you've described, people who've been human trafficked also internally here in our home, they might not have been able to celebrate Heritage Day as freely as maybe you and I and many other South Africans, because they are uprooted from their homes. And it's important that we understand. That's why we're talking about it, that you and I might be able to celebrate our heritage, but we have maybe just next door somebody who was not able to celebrate freely today.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank yourself, Dan, and the producers at ENCA for highlighting this issue. Very important to remember that there are very vibrant migrant communities celebrating their heritage today in new host countries where they've been welcomed. But for the majority of migrants, for the majority of people who are in forced labor or in situations of trafficking, they are in fear of their lives. They have no agency. They have no way of leaving, and they certainly have no way of celebrating their heritage today.
Thank you very much for reminding us of that. Susan Marx there, of course, she's from the South African trafficking. She was part of the South African trafficking prevalence study. She's from she's an international human rights practitioner, and she was a member of that research team. And just a reminder that the South African National Human Trafficking Hotline that you can use in case you suspect there is some human trafficking that has happened that you are aware of. That hotline number is a toll-free number, and it's 0800 222 777. I'm going to repeat it, 0800 222 777.